This conference will now be recorded.
So today, is my voice audible and are able to view my screen?
Yes, yes,
Yes,
your voice is.
Okay. So today we come back to other service EC2 again, but before that, let's try to understand different types of storages. Storage types in AWS. Okay, what are the different types of storage types available in AWS? That we will try to understand. Okay. So we have uh, Elastic Block Store (EBS). This Elastic Block Store we already used. For example, when we created EC2 instance, at that time a default volume is attached, right? So that is of type Elastic Block Store. Elastic Block Store is same like our hard disk. Is same like our hard disk. Next is simple storage service. This is same like our Google Drive. So in Google Drive, you can store any software, right? So any software, any audio, any object you can store in Google Drive, right? Videos, MP3, anything you can store it. To store it for that Google Drive, you does not require any operating system. Any server should not require to be running. Whereas EBS, if you take, it must require a server to be running. Only then we can attach the volume to it, and then only we can save the data or retrieve the data from the volume. So for EBS to use, you must have a running EC2 instance. Whereas S3, it's like since it is like Google Drive, it does not require any what you call EC2 instance. Without any instance, S3 can be run. You can use it. You can use that service. That is the main difference you should understand. And next comes Elastic File System. Elastic File System is again, this is a different storage, but this storage again it's independent. For the to access Elastic File System storage, the Elastic File System, it is not mandatory to connect the Elastic File System to a running instance. It is not mandatory to connect a running instance. It's like S3 only. But the data contains in the Elastic File System, if you want to access, then no, you should connect it with your server. Suppose you are using some EC2 instance. Using that EC2 instance, you have to connect to it. This will be connected to that EC2 instance, and you can use the content of Elastic File System. That means it is like no multiple servers. Multiple means hundreds, thousands of servers also can able to connect to this Elastic File System, and you can share. They all can share the data. They all can share the data. So if your colleagues working in Germany and you are working in India and another is working in Australia and another in US and all are working for the same project, and there is a common location where there is a common file system where in that your data is stored, and all of you which are in different locations can connect to that file system, and they can retrieve the data inside that file system, or you can copy the files into that file system. Both you can do. And this elastic file system automatically grows as per your data. If data you are adding more data, if more space is required, elastic file system automatically grows. That is the reason we say it as elastic. So it grows as per the data, and it will shrink automatically if less data is required. So you removed some deleted the data from the file system, so automatically it will shrink, and accordingly the size will decrease. Basing on when the size is decreased, then you need to pay less charges for that using the less space. So S3 Glacier is like S3 simple storage service like that only, but Glacier means normally, as you know, in real time. What is glacier? Normally, in Himalayas we have a lot of glaciers, right? So glaciers are in the form of storage in the frozen format, right? It's in the form of frozen format. So whenever the glacier melts, then all the water will come down it flows down, right? So and because of that, a lot of damage happens to the people who are in the downside, right? So that is glacier actually. The meaning of the glacier is that one, right? What is glacier? It's a it's in a freezed format. It's a frozen format. It's a frozen form actually. So water is frozen in the frozen form. That means the water is not used by anyone as long as it is in frozen form. Similarly, S3 glacier is same like that. Whenever you don't want your data to be used for long time, maybe 1 year or 6 months or 1 year, 2 years, then you can keep such data in a type called S3 glacier. So here S3 glacier, when you move data to S3 glacier, the charges are very cheap. The charges are very cheap when compared with your elastic block store and when you compare with S3. S3 glacier, whenever you store your data, the storage is cheap, and but when you want to retrieve the data from the glacier, it will take some time. It will take some time. Whereas if the data you want to retrieve from S3 or EFS or EBS, you can retrieve the data instantly. But in glacier, you cannot instantly. You cannot withdraw because in S3 glacier, Amazon clouds or other clouds, they use cheap material, cheap storage like tape, magnetic tapes kind of. So when they use that kind of, then no retrieving data takes time, even minutes to hours. And Snowball is another, is not a storage actually, it's a device. Snowball is a device. Normally, what happens is in big companies when they have huge data, for example, Snowball. So this is a device. This device is called Snowball. So why we require this device is, suppose as you know, many companies are moving to cloud, right? Many companies are moving to cloud. So large companies, very large companies which are there from last 40 years, 50 years, right? Such companies also want to move to the cloud. Then the companies, what they will do, if they want to move their data, they have to move the data to the cloud first of all. That means moving the data means they have to create an instance, and from the to that instance they have to upload the data. So because even though the internet is very fast, they have such amount of data. That amount of data they cannot upload all the data within hours or days. It takes even month, more than month also it will take to upload all the data to the cloud. Once the data is moved to the cloud, they can start using the data, right? But moving the data itself takes long time. Even month also it will take time. So that for that reason, what happens is Amazon cloud provides a device called Snowball. So what happens is the team from Amazon cloud itself, they come to the client location, and from there they will collect their data in safe, in this safe, this safe, this device is very safe, so it cannot be corrupted easily. So in this device, the client data can be moved. So such devices will be used, multiple devices will be used into this device. So and those devices will be moved through a truck, again that is maintained by the Amazon only. So multiple devices will have the data collected from the client location. Once the data is collected from the client location, the devices are moved to the Amazon data center. From there they will connect this device directly to the Amazon's data center servers, and they will immediate, they can easy, because they're connected to the network, and they can upload the data very fast. So this way, in few days, they can move the data, use data from the client location to the Amazon data center. So this is one of the rare scenario. So, but we should know that there is one device called Snowball. So we have block store. So let's understand elastic block store. Let's understand what is elastic block store. So same, it's same like our physical hard disk. In your laptop, in our hard disk, we have hard disk, right? So same thing, same whatever the hard disk features having, the block storage have the same features. Like block storage is, I will share this document to you all in your document folder. You can go through it later. Block storage is suitable for transactional databases, right? As you know, we can install databases, we can install any software, right? Random read, write, loads, and structured database storage, right? So you can install any software, any and applications, and you can retrieve them, right? So those are all stored in a proper format. The block store will maintain a list of the addresses of each data. So whenever you want to retrieve it, the hard disk will take care where it has stored, it will pick it from there. So everything it will maintain automatically. Block storage divides the data to be stored in evenly sized blocks, data chunks. For instance, a file can split into evenly sized blocks before it is stored. Evenly split, that means, as you know, we have 32-bit, 64-bit, right? 32-bit means each block size will be of how many bytes? 4 bytes. The 32 bits, each 8 bytes, 8 bits equal to 1 byte. Yes or no? 8 bits equal to 1 please. As you know, 8 bits equal to 1 byte. So when you are using, suppose you are, when in olden days we used to have only 32-bit operating system. 32 bits equal to 4 bytes, right? So previously when we are using Windows 3.1 at the time, we used to have 32-bit only. We don't have 64-bit. So Windows 3.1 is of version 32-bit. So when we are working at the time, we used to work on Windows 3.1. It supports only 32-bit. Nowadays, what we are using 64-bit. 64 bits equal to how many bytes? 8 bytes. So 8 bytes. So every chunk is minimum slice is 8 bytes. So that's what here we are discussing. So for instance, if block storage divides the data into to be stored in evenly sized blocks. Data blocks stored in block storage would not contain metadata. So the data, whatever data stored in that, metadata will not be stored. For example, in your mobile, you take a photograph and you go to the photograph details, go to the details. In that, you will contain the when it is taken, those information it will contain. So the date and time, everything will be date. That is called metadata. Data about the data about data. So that is metadata. So, but data blocks, the in the storage only data will be stored. In elastic block store only data is stored. So would not contain metadata. Data created, date time, the content type. This is not stored in that. Only data is stored. But on the file, if you right click, you will get the details. But internally, only data is stored. So block storage only keeps the address where the data blocks are stored. It does not care what is in the block, just how to retrieve it when required. So block storage only keeps the address, that's all. It will maintain the addresses of each data. Suppose you want to store some file, the file will be stored in the memory, the hard disk, and the starting point of that file will be stored in a location. It will keep track of every file, every file information it will store. The starting address it will store. The starting address, when it stores, whenever you want it, it goes to the starting location and will retrieve all the data from beginning from that address location, starting location. That way it will keeps track. And object storage. Object storage. Now we are going discussing about S3 now. That previously it is about normal hard disk features. Now we are going to understand the features of S3 bucket. So before understanding S3, let's understand what is object and what is object storage. Object storage stores the files as a whole, does not divide them. That means, suppose if you take elastic block store and suppose you want to store a huge data. The data size is assume some 200 GB. Then the in elastic block store, it will not store the 200 GB continuously from it. It won't store continuously. It will divide it. It will subdivide it. It will subdivide into multiple blocks, and randomly it will choose the memory, and it will copy the data randomly. So the 200 GB, 200 MB data will be subdivided into as per the requirement, as per the hard disk, whatever the software thinks about how many slices you have to split, those many slices it will split. So 200, suppose 10 slices are divided, 20 MB per location. So it will divide 20 MB per location, for example, and 10 pieces, 20 into 10 is 200 MB, right? So it will store 10 slices of 20 MB in different locations. But we don't need to worry where those 10 pieces are stored in the hard disk. The hard disk, it will take care. Whenever you want, it will give you back. We don't need to worry how it's stored, where it's stored, but it will maintain the starting point of each of the slice. If each of the memory location, it will store it, it will maintain one 20 MB space, it will store some in a list. Next to 20 MB space, it will address of the beginning of that slice will store in the list. Like that, it will store the starting address of each slice. But here in object, it's not like that. Object stores the file as a whole and does not divide them. So if you are 200 GB, it will store 200 GB at a time. So it won't divide anything. It won't do any division kind of. So that is the feature of S3 bucket. In object storage, an object is a file or data itself, its metadata, and every object will have a unique ID, global unique ID. In S3, I will tell you when we start learning in S3, we'll come to a term called global unique ID. Why require global unique ID? We will discuss. The global unique ID is a unique identifier for the object. Here, object means it can be it can be the object names. No, the identifier for the object. Object here it can be your file, your text file, your Word document, your Excel sheet, your what you call your Java file, C# file. It could be anything. Your movie, video. So these are all we call objects. Your table, your chair, your laptop, everything is object, right? So object can be anything. Okay. So every object, for example, I am storing a audio, so the audio should have a unique id, is a unique id for the object, can be object name itself, and it must be unique such that it can be retrieved disregarding where its physical storage location is. So it will store whenever you want, you will get it. So we don't have to worry about where it has stored. Object storage cannot be mounted as a drive. So object storage cannot be mounted as a drive. That means, for example, in Windows, if you can in Linux and Windows, you can mount a software as a drive, separate drive. We have an option, option. When we learning on EFS, Elastic File System, we will learn about mounting. What is mounting at the time? We will learn what is mounting is. So to use Elastic File System, we have to mount it to the server, to the EC2 instance. Why it is required at the time? I will show you at the time. But for S3 storage, mounting is not required. Okay, mounting is not required. For example, you downloaded Windows operating system, you are already using Windows 7 for example, and you downloaded Windows 10 or MS Office. Actually in this laptop I don't have, if I have I would have shown you. So on that we will get a ISO file, .iso file. When you right click on the .iso file, a menu will pop up. In that menu you will get an option called mount. When you click the mount option, automatically that file will be for that ISO file, a new drive will be created. Suppose you already have E drive, then a new F drive will be created for that, and that will be mounted. And when you click on the F drive, all the contents of that ISO file will be shown on the right side. So it's called mounting. And we can, and in that file you can click on the exe and you can deploy the software. Because ISO, when you click ISO, it won't install. You have to mount it. When you mount it, it will be shown as a separate drive on your Windows system. Once you double click on the drive, on the right side you will get all the setup files. When you click on the setup.exe, then you can install it. ISO cannot be installable. You have to mount it. I will show you in Monday. As of now, I don't have the software. That ISO, if I have one ISO file, I would have shown you. I will copy today. I'll show you some other day. Example of object storage solutions are Dropbox, AWS S3, Facebook, okay, even our Google Drive. Dropbox also one kind of example. So now try to understand simple storage service, or in short S3. S3 is a storage for the internet. It has simple web services interface for simple storing and retrieving of any amount of data anytime from anywhere on the internet. So you no need to run any instance. You can directly use this S3 service and you can store any data, and data set can be any size, no problem. Huge files you can store it. S3 is object based storage. You cannot install operating system on S3, right? You cannot install operating system on S3. That you should remember. You can store objects, but you cannot install. Installations can be done only on the Elastic Block Store type of volumes only. You can do it. Installation software, those things only you can do it on Elastic Block Store type, not on S3, not on EFS also. S3 has distributed data store architecture where objects are redundantly stored in multiple locations. That means S3 is a service which can be accessed globally. That means you can access from anywhere in the world. Whereas EC2 instance, for example, if you created in Mumbai region, you can access it only from the Mumbai region. But S3 is not like that. You can it is a global service. It's a global service. So when you create a EC2 instance on the region, it will be shown as Mumbai, right? But when you create S3 service, the region will be shown as global. So anywhere in the world you can connect, you can use it. That is the reason the S3 bucket, the S3 name should be unique. We will discuss when we start practicing, when we start lab. But as of now, let's understand the theory. Data is stored in bucket. Now you see here in AWS, we will be learning different types of technology. We'll be going to hear different types of technology. For example, here the terminology here what I'm using is bucket, right? Here for S3 we say bucket. Like bucket, we have another term called topic, and similarly we have trail, right? Alarm, many more. We will in this AWS cloud provider, they use different types of names actually for different services. For S3 they use bucket. Okay, for topic, they for SNS we have SNS service. For SNS we use a term called topic. For trail, for example, we have another service called cloud trail. For this, when you are working on cloud trail, we use a term called trail. And when you are working with CloudWatch, for example, then you will use alarm. And when you are working with S3, you will use bucket, right? Like that, for every service they use different types. You will come to know in coming classes. So name is not an important thing, but don't confuse what is bucket. Okay, they simply give that it's a container. You can say it as a container, or you can say it as a container. Bucket is like a container, okay, which holds data, right? When we're learning backup, when you're learning Amazon backup, we have a for backup service. At the time, for backup also we require a container to store the backup. Then we use a term called vault. Okay, we say vault or vaults. Okay, so bucket is like a container which holds data. Let's try to understand that. But data is stored in bucket. A bucket is a flat container of objects. That is, we cannot create nested buckets. You mean what we mean is we cannot create bucket inside a bucket. We cannot create another bucket. Bucket will be only one. But in that bucket, you can create as many files you want, as many folders you want. You can also upload as many files, as many folders you want. You can upload into the bucket, and you can create multiple buckets individually, but not inside the bucket. Okay, you cannot nest them. Maximum capacity of a bucket is 5 terabytes. So each bucket can hold of size of 5 terabytes. So 5 terabytes of storage one bucket can hold. If you want to add more than 5 terabyte, you create one more bucket. In that you can add 5 terabyte, max 5 terabyte you can hold in that. That way we do. You can create folders in your bucket. Bucket ownership is non-transferable. Okay, only you created, you can use it. You can have up to 100 buckets per account. You can have up to 100 buckets per account, may expand on request. The rules are changing. The rules always changes. It is not today it's 100 buckets, but the rules may be changed. Okay. S3 buckets naming rules. S3 bucket names or keys are globally unique across all AWS regions. So whenever you are going to create a bucket, why we require to create a bucket? Because bucket you must create. Only then in that you can upload your files or folders, or you can create files or folders inside the bucket. So bucket is must, is a container. So that should be, the name should be unique. Bucket names cannot be changed after they are created. Once you are created, you cannot change it. If you want, you have to delete it. If a bucket is deleted, its name becomes available again to your other account to use. If the bucket is deleted, then that name is free now. Anybody can use the same name if they want to. Bucket names must be at least 3 and more than 63 characters long. Bucket names are part of the URL used to access a bucket. So now suppose here we am saying part of the URL. Why URL coming here? Because the files what we are storing, those files you want to, if you want to share, you can share, they can view the content of the file using a URL as well. So automatically whenever you create a bucket, a URL is created. When you upload a file, then for that file a URL is created. We'll see that how we can access it. We'll see that bucket name must be a series of one or more labels. Okay, so you can give labels also if you want to identify it separately, like tag names you can give it. We'll see that bucket names can contain lowercase, numbers, and hyphen. Cannot use uppercase letter. You cannot use uppercase. If you give uppercase, the bucket will not be created. Bucket name should not be an IP address. Okay, each label must start and end with a lowercase letter or number. By default, buckets and its objects are private. By default, only owner can access the bucket. S3 buckets sub resources. You see, in S3 bucket, we have some other resources like lifecycle, website, versioning, access control list. What are these things? We'll see. Sub resources for S3 bucket includes lifecycle to decide on object lifecycle management. Now in S3, I told you you can upload any files, any number of files, folders, right? But how long you can keep it in S3 bucket? Because S3 storage is also uses a kind of storage. That storage having different what do you call prices. The storage you have different price rates actually. So if in that bucket you uploaded some files of size, for example some 500 GB of data you uploaded into the S3 bucket, but you are not using it for long time, assume 3-4 months you are not using it, and you know that you are not going to use it for 3-4 months, then no, you can move the data to cheapest storage. So that we can manage using life cycle. You can use a life cycle. So in when you start lab, in that we have option called life cycle. In that we will see how to move, how can we move, what options are given by the AWS cloud provider, what options is provided, what cheap storage is provided, those we'll see, and what prices for cheap storage, that also we'll see. Website to hold configuration related to static websites hosted in S3 bucket. Now normally what happens is that the developers, what they do, once they develop their application, they want to web application, they want to verify whether their application properly working or not. So instead of deploying into the dev server, instead of moving there, they want to check by moving that their application to a S3 storage. So S3 allows you to launch a static website also. They can launch a static website also. So suppose this developer want to show the output to his colleague is somewhere not in the same location, then no, he can share the static website link to him, and that person can use that link and he can open it on his browser. But the application running where? Inside the S3 bucket. But till now, we required web server to be launched any website, but S3 will take care of everything. S3 will take care everything. So internally it will take everything, and it will make you that your static website will run on the browser. So till now, whenever you want any website to be installed, you must require a EC2 instance to be created. Either it could be Windows or Linux. We have created, then we installed web server. Then after that we deployed the application, right? But in S3, without EC2 instance, without web server, we can launch a website, a static website, not the dynamic one. Static website we can launch. How to do that? We will see that. And next is versioning. Keep object versions as it changes. Versioning, right? The Git also maintains the versioning, and S3 also maintains the versioning. Versioning means what? Suppose today this is a content. This is a first version, for example. Okay, after 1 hour, after one day, say other day, suppose not our day, after 30 minutes or so, I added some more text here. Okay, added after suppose 30 minutes. Okay, so till this is one version I can think of, and I want to think this as a other version. Okay, and this is before and this is after. But suppose I want 30 minutes before data. That means 30 minutes before data, this line is was not there. For example, I want this data. This is one version. No, I want the data after 30 minutes data. Then when I see that is second version, the second version should show including this line also. Everything should show, but the first version should not show the line which added after 30 minutes. That is first version, and this is second version. And after 1 hour or after one day, I added some more line here added. For example, this is second day, so around 40 lines is there. Okay, this second day, and on second day it is stored on the second day. Now I want only the first day version. First day version means everything you should get. This everything will get. No, on the first day I want only from line numbers from here. This version I want. This version. So we have three versions now. This is first version. This is second version, and assume some more data is there, and this is comes as a third version. If you want third version, then all the 44 lines I should get. When you are using second version, then I should get up to line number 19 only. When I am using first version, only up to 17 I should get. So these things, if you want to do, then what you will do, you will say this file name is new one. Here it's showing on the tab, it is showing new one. Then you have to create 3 files for each version you will have to create one file, and this version you will save in another file, but name will be different because file names cannot be have same name, right? So you have to create 3 files with different names, and you can say first file, you can say file version 1 v1, and you can say this as v2, and this you can say v3. Like that you can maintain it, but how long you can maintain it? Like that, how can you maintain it? Hundreds of versions, hundreds of changes, thousands of changes will be there in real time. Developers every day do a lot of changes. In single day they do thousands changes. How can you maintain? We cannot maintain, right? So in Git will maintain the versioning. Also S3 also can maintain the versioning. So you don't need to worry. Once you enable the versioning in Git, then automatically, suppose first version, you can upload that first version to the S3 bucket, and after adding the second version, you can upload the second version, and you can upload the third version. Now everything will, the S3 will take care. The versioning feature of S3 will take care. Now if you want first version, you select that first version, you will get the output of the only first version. So this way, versioning helps a lot. This, if you don't understand now, when I'm explaining practically, at that time again I will explain and I will show you in the practice. In practical, we'll see that how it works. And every bucket will have policies. We call it as access control list. Every bucket will have policies, so we call it as access control list. Using the access control list, we can control the access of the buckets. Suppose I want to give access to everyone, then I have to change the access control list permissions. If we change the permission of the access control list, then everybody can access the bucket. If you want to restrict it, you can restrict it using access control list. So how to do that, we will see while working on it. The bucket name is simply two parts: the bucket's regions endpoint, bucket name. How it looks. So for example, for S3 bucket, I created a bucket name like new bucket 18 Jan 645. This is a unique name I created, for example, in some Europe region. Okay, then how the URL creates for the bucket will be looks like. You see here, HTTPS, the bucket name dot the category type. What type of category we are using? S3. When you are using instance, no, EC2 instance, here S3, in place of S3 we will have compute. Okay, but we have here S3. S3 is the category name, and then the region name. It's Mumbai region, of course. Here I'm saying Europe region, but ignore it. Here it's a Mumbai region, and then the website name slash our file name, the file which I have uploaded into the bucket. The bucket, first I will create the bucket. In that bucket, I will upload a file called important doc.txt, some file, some text file I uploaded. So if you have somebody I want to give you to check the content of this important doc.txt file, then I have to give you the complete link. The complete link I have to give. The complete link, when I give that to you, then and I also have to change the access control list to make it to public. Only then you can access the content of important dot text content. You can access it. So to give you the file, simply important dot text file will not share. I will not share. I will give you the complete URL to you. So automatically in that bucket, in that region, the file will be shown to you. Object size stored in S3 bucket can be 0 bytes. That means you no need to upload any file, no problem. You can create the bucket, you no need to upload anything, it's not required. And maximum it can upload up to 5 terabytes. Each object is stored and retrieved by a unique key ID or name. You will see that. An object in AWS S3 is uniquely identified and addressed. So every object will have a service endpoint. That means nothing but this is called your this is the endpoint you contain. The URL is called as the endpoint. Bucket name, object key, the name, optionally object version. Optionally object version. That means I told you in the example, assume you have 3 versions. I want the second version. Then the URL which you are seeing is the it will not be like this. How it will be then? If you want second version, then the S3 service called in the S3 we have a feature called versioning. The versioning will create a ID for the new version. That version number will be added at the end. Important.text slash the version number will be added over there. So every version, whatever you want, every version will have a version ID will be created automatically by the versioning feature of S3 service. So every ID, when you slash, a ID will come over here. In this, no ID is there. That means I am not using a versioning. That is the reason we are saying optionally object version. So if you don't have versions, then you won't see any version ID. But if you have version, then you will also see version ID. Objects stored in a S3 bucket in a region will never leave that region unless you specifically move them to another region. Okay, if you want to move, you can move it. A bucket owner can grant cross account permissions to another AWS account or users in another account to upload objects. We can give that level permissions also to another account. Also, you can give permissions if required. You can grant S3 bucket object permissions to individual users, AWS account, make the resource public, or to all authenticated users. So that's all about today. So tomorrow we start using how to create buckets in our cloud. So when you go to I've shared the document. So as you see, you can go down here. Your option is under storage. You can three your S3. Here is S3, or else you can say type your S3 here. You'll get your S3. Okay, click on S3. So Amazon S3 store and retrieve any amount of data from anywhere. Okay, if you click on this, this is a buckets on the left side. If you click on it, you see no buckets are available. Okay, no buckets. You can create a bucket. Tomorrow we will see that. And if you come down, if you go to just scroll, just click on the dashboard. Okay, click on the name Amazon S3. Just click on it. You'll come to here. Just scroll down. If you see view pricing details, when you click on this view pricing details, okay, for every region there will be different pricing list. If you see it's East Virginia, okay, what is saying is that there are different types of storage available here. So what I'm seeing here, I want to see the data. Yes, you see in Mumbai region, first 50 terabytes for per month, how much they charge? 0.025 per GB. 0.025 per GB. Okay, so up to first terabytes, first 50 terabytes. If you are using more, then that is next to 450, they will decrease 0.024 now, right? Now if you go down, you'll have cheapest storages now. So deep archive, if you see deep archive, you see they're charging only 0.002 per GB, you see. But when you compare with the previous one, they're charging 0.025, and you see 0.002 is very cheap. That means per GB, for example, they're charging 0.25, right? You can calculate 1024 into, that is a 1 GB, for example, 0.025 the charging per GB. That is 25 rupees. Normal storage. That is normal storage. If you stored in S3 bucket, they will charge per bucket. Sorry, per 1 GB they store 25 rupees. They charge 25 rupees. But if you move it to cheapest storage, for example, here to deep archive, so then they're charging only 0.002. So how much it comes to? 1024 into 0.002, charging only 2 rupees. Only 2 rupees. So it's a lot of savings, right? Lot of savings. It is per day, per month they're charging it. Per month they're charging it. Okay. So normally when they are not using it, they normally will move to cheapest storages. But only retrieving time is more. That's all. That is the only drawback. Otherwise, this we can save a lot of money by moving the old data to cheapest storages. We'll continue tomorrow with practicals. I will stop today. Thank you for joining. We'll connect tomorrow same time at 9 a.m. Have a good day.